sit up there. Because when you sing these hymns and the responsive song, and even this gospel hallelujah, you sound like the tabernacle choir. I'm so impressed. It's really great. I know it's air conditioning here, but I am very, very cold. Does anyone have a handkerchief? All right, a bandana. This place doesn't have an handkerchief. Amen. No handkerchief. You'll all have them tonight later on. What a heavy gospel. Oh gosh, when I read that, I thought, God, it's so the first will be last, the last will be first, and some won't get in, and some will get in. You'll be banging the door. Oh, awfully serious, and awfully, ooh, kind of frightening almost. So I thought, let's have some fun. Let's lighten up. Let's lighten up. Now I need your help. I need your help with this homily, the first part. Now, be serious. I want to ask you a question, and everybody can answer. Raise your hand. Just think about it seriously when I ask the question. When you have the answer, you raise your hand. The only people that can't answer are the people who are here tonight with their special someone. You know, their significant other, or their life partner, or the person whom they're going to be with, you know, or that they have found, okay? You're disqualified. All the rest of us can answer the question. Now, if I was able to take a magic wand and make appear before your eyes the person of your dreams, what would be your type? Just think. What would be your type? You. What's your type?
Honestly?
Yeah.
I'll take whatever God gives me.
As long as they're breathing. Green, what the type would be. You can get anybody and what they look like. What's your type? Harrison Ford. Kind of rugged, smart, athletic, big, broad shoulders. What's your type? Sweet, kind, and honest. Good luck. Okay. Any other type you have? Do you have a type?
Something that makes me feel good.
Something makes me feel good. When do we go to the real important values like, you know, blonde hair, 6'3", blue eyes, washboard stomach? What about those types? That's important. Thank you. We all have types. And even though we're probably less than honest, we are not going to admit the fact that everybody here has a type. Everybody. You can all sit there thinking, oh, I don't have a type. I just want the person to be honest and loving and kind. Yeah, right. But if they're ugly, it doesn't make any difference. I mean, let's be real here. Let's be real. I mean, you don't see kind and loving walk in the door right away. It's boom. Is that your type or isn't it? And we've all been in bars and restaurants and out in the street. And you can always tell immediately if the person's your type or not. It's just one quick glance. Boom, pow. If that person's your type, you'll turn around and follow them. If that person ain't your type, they're going to keep on walking to the Hudson. Trust me. We all have types. Which basically says that all of us, because everybody does have a type, can relate to the most universal feeling in the world. Everybody here can relate to the feeling of rejection because you have not been somebody's type. Somebody's type. Rejection. Oh boy, I know that better than anything. When I think of my life, it started early on. Early on. I remember I was a little kid and I think I was 12 or 13 and I was going out for a school play. And just around the age of 12, I had surgery on my hip. I dislocated my hip. And so I was in a leg brace and a cast for almost a year. And I had to learn how to walk again. But as you probably realize if you've seen any length of time, it still leaves me with a limp. So around 13 or 14 years old, it came in 8th or 9th grade, the show was coming up. It was the year for the school, you know, the show for the year. And it was Oklahoma. Well, I wanted that lead like there was no tomorrow. And when I heard that Oklahoma was going to be the show that was going to be put on, I memorized every line, and I learned every song, and I went out for the audition. Well, it got down to 3. And I knew when I listened to the other 2 that I would get the part. At least I knew that I should get the part. Until the 3 of us were standing outside the door where all the teachers were in behind a closed door deciding who was going to get the lead in Oklahoma. And we're all standing there nervously, and then all of a sudden, I heard one teacher say, "Okay, fine, he knows all the lines. Okay, fine, he has the best voice over the other 2. But look at that limp." And I realized I wasn't going to get the part. And it's amazing, early on in life, from the age of 13, 14 years old, how much that little limp has defined what I've been able to do. And more importantly, what I've been rejected from being able to do. You can relate to that. Because all of us have been rejected at some point or another. Either because we're not the right shape, we're not the right age, we're not the right color. We've been rejected by the best. We've been rejected by family because we're gay. We're rejected by the church because we're gay. We're rejected by a lot of people, institutions, schools, workplaces, apartment houses. We know what rejection is. From everybody out there who kind of decides that we're just not the type. And we also know rejection from within the community. That even hurts more. I can remember a few years ago when I lived here in New York, I went with a friend of mine to a bar. Yes, I went to a bar. We knocked on the door, and they let him in, and didn't let me, because he had a leather jacket. I had my little window. Interesting. Talk about rejection. I couldn't believe it. Unbelievable. And yet we experience that within the community all the time. And then, sometimes, after you've gone through those years of rejection, and then maybe you find somebody who is your type, whom you think you're going to finally settle down with, you find after a short while, sometimes even the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with begins to reject you. Because they begin to develop patterns, or habits, or new friends who maybe aren't into things that you're in. And so then you get rejected by the very person that you put out all of your time, energy, and love for. And they move on to somebody else. And if that isn't a heartbreak. Well, tonight's gospel is talking about rejection. Because you think, you live this whole life, and everybody experiencing this, and you experience from early on, from childhood to adult life to old age, especially as a lesbian or gay. And you think, finally, when I die, it's going to be all over. No more rejection. Well, surprise. Surprise, that's what the gospel says. Surprise. Because it carries into the next life. It really does. And that's what's interesting. Because Jesus tonight, in the Gospel of Luke, is talking about people being rejected. Not everybody goes to heaven. Not everybody is in that kingdom. And Jesus talks about those who were rejected. And that's where we can really learn the message of tonight's gospel. Jesus talks about 3 different kinds of types of people who don't get entrance into the kingdom. List them. 1, 2, 3. Let me start with number 3 first. This first will be last, and the last will be first. That makes me nervous. But what's Jesus really saying? And what is Jesus really saying there to you, sitting in that seat? Jesus is saying to you and to me, right now, tonight, that if you're here right now spiritually, tomorrow you better be there. If you're not, the first will be last, and the last will be first. We may all be surprised as to who is gaining entrance into that kingdom. Jesus is basically saying there, you can't rest on your laurels. That spirituality is a constantly growing, moving, climbing thing. And so if you're there 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, 60 years old tonight, sitting and thinking, well, I'm here right now where I am spiritually, I should be able to coast on until God comes for me. Forget it. It's not going to happen. The second type that gets rejected. Those who are saying and knocking on the door, let us in. We know you. We ate and drank with you. We saw you in our streets. And who are those people that are rejected? It's people like us who are going to be content to be able to say, I'm a Catholic, or I'm a Christian, or I place myself in the surrounding of faith and religion. And Jesus is saying to everybody here, if you fall into that trap, you too will be rejected. Because just because you go through the motions, just because you utter my name, just because you read, just because you say the prayers, just because you sing, just because you attend, does not mean that you really know who Jesus is. And the third type that gets rejected is the one that really caught my attention. Because it's the one whom Jesus says, you have to get through that narrow door. Even in the next life, I have to work. But is Jesus now talking about my size or my weight? No. But it's a very interesting kind of symbol there. Because what Jesus is basically saying is that you can't enter the next life with everything else that's baggage. All that other stuff you have to leave behind to be able to fit through that narrow door. And so what has to be left behind? has to be left behind in this life. And what is that baggage? What's that extra luggage? Greed, egotism, envy, unforgiveness, selfishness, attachments. All of that has to be left behind and dropped to be able to squeeze through that narrow. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could carry all of those things into the next life? Wouldn't it be great, instead of a door, there was a great big tunnel that you could bring it all in? But it doesn't work that way. I remember as a little kid, going to Sunday school on Sunday mornings, I had a phenomenal Sunday school teacher, Miss Sandy. Miss Sandy told us a story which, to this day, I remember. And it best illustrates that narrow door. She said, you know, boys and girls, there was a woman who lived her whole life very selfishly. Never gave of herself, never gave of her money, never gave of her possessions, never gave of her time. Always thinking of herself. Very rich, very self-satisfied, led a very materialistic life. And then she dies. And she goes to heaven. And she meets the angel at the door. So the angel greets her and says, here, I'll take you to your place. So very confidently she follows the angel. And she starts walking down Main Street in heaven. And she sees these beautiful mansions and these beautiful palaces and these beautiful homes. And she just thinks, oh, I can't wait to see mine. And then she keeps following the escorting angel. And now they're walking down Main Street, and out Main Street, and out of the city, and now she's walking to the suburbs. And now she's seeing the houses get very small. And she's beginning to see, you know, all of these kind of places that she really doesn't necessarily want to live in. The neighborhood's kind of strange. People she doesn't recognize. And all of a sudden, she keeps on walking. And the escorting angel keeps saying, come on, dear, come on. And so then what happens is she finally goes past the suburbs, and then she follows the angel, and the angel comes over and he says, here, there's your place. And it's nothing more than a hut. And she says to the angel, that! I can't live in that! And the angel said to her, ma'am, it's all we could build with the supplies you sent. We have to send some supplies up. We don't send supplies up. Jesus says, we're going to live in a hut. If we're lucky enough to even get there, see them. The other three ways. Growing every day spiritually. Knowing Jesus more than just a name. And then, of course, dropping those things and eliminating those things that pull us down to prevent us from moving on to the next life. It's those things that can get us down the street. We're all Jesus' house. Or we will be.
No. I'll tell you when it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Count me off.
5, 4, 3.
Hello, this is Will Berger here at St. John's in the Village, where we've just had a very exciting service led by Ron Hoskins. And I'm here with Jeff Stone, who is now, Jeff, we've done this before, but help me through. What's your title again?
Let's just say I'm on the national board, Will, for the Northeast region, which is the states of New York and New Jersey.
Okay, that makes Jeff our papal nuncio from Dignity National, and he's going to help us sort out some of the disturbing things that have been going on in the church and the world. Jeff, let's start with these ads we've been seeing. I know people out there have seen these ads. Can you tell us who is behind them, what the fuss is? Give us a little background on this.
Well, I suspect that a lot of our viewers, Will, did see those ads. A coalition of right-wing religious groups took out a series of ads in the New York Times and USA Today and the Washington Post, and basically what these ads said was, they showed a couple of people who said that they had been, quote, cured of being gay. There was a woman in one, Reggie White, the former football player.
Not one of my favorites, yes.
No, sort of went on his rant again, and these right-wing types claimed that people were trying to squelch their right to speak and so forth. But I think the most disturbing aspect of it was this angle that people could be cured of being gay. And in Washington, of course, this set all the gay rights groups, both secular and religious, in a tizzy. And they had a roundtable meeting, and Charles Cox, our executive director, met with Elizabeth Birch of Human Rights Campaign and all the other honchos of the national organizations, and they put together a response to these ads, which, again, I think a lot of our viewers probably saw. It appeared in the Times a few days later, and it showed a family, a mother, father, and an adult daughter, a middle American family from Minnesota, and it was an attempt to show that gay and lesbian children grow up in healthy families, and there was also a lot about faith in that ad. There was a considerable amount about faith and how many gay people are people of faith, and this attempt to sort of oppose people of faith on one side and gay people on the other side, it's a totally false sort of dichotomy.
As you can clearly see here. Now, there are a few issues here we need to follow up on. First of all, I saw the response ad with HRC, and I did not know that Dignity was a part of that.
Well, we weren't official sponsors, Will. It was actually, it was sort of a complicated story. But
it always is.
It always is, but we actually have very good relations with HRC. We would have needed to pony up a lot of dollars to actually be official sponsors of that ad. And I hope at some point we'll be able to do that, but we weren't able to do it this time. And there will be other chances for us to sort of come in and respond. But we were consulted, as was MCC and many of the other religious groups. And there is a developing relationship between the gay religious groups and the so-called secular groups.
Right.
There's been kind of tension occasionally because some of the people in the secular groups just did not want to work with the religious groups or felt that did not relate to civil rights particularly. But
Right.
I mean, now they're realizing the language that is being used to hold us back. The most effective language is so-called religious language.
They might take a page from the civil rights movement of the 60s.
Yes.
Duh. Okay.
In
All
which religious leaders played a minor role.
One or two in particular. Okay. Now, the HRC ad responding to this received some criticism also in gay circles. Can you tell us what the problem was with the largest gay response to these right-wing ads?
Well,
do you remember any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I can't give any comprehensive answer, but I did hear some of the criticism. Some people thought this is just too mainstream. I mean, these people are just too Disneyland to be true. But I think, in fact, it was a very good ad myself. The Religious Right ran a series of 4 ads, I think, with a reported budget of over $200,000.
Nice.
HRC ran 1 ad, as I understand it. I know they ran it in the Times. I don't know where else they ran it. But they had to really choose one theme. And
Right.
I thought it was a good theme for this particular response. And there will be other responses that they will be doing.
I agree and think that if there's only going to be one response, it can't satisfy everybody, which leads me to my next question. What else is Dignity National doing to respond to this particular issue and just sort of the latest barrage of right-wing lunacy against gay people?
Well, there was a press conference held in Washington this past week in which the Family Research Council, which is one of these right-wing sort of so-called Christian groups, convened a bunch of religious figures to say that homosexuality and religion were not compatible with one another. Well, HRC promptly convened their own press conference to state what is in fact the truth, which is that a lot of religious leaders recognize that there is no necessary conflict between homosexuality and religion. And a number of important people were there, including our own executive director, Charles Cox, the director of the, I'm going to forget the name of it now. It's the Interfaith Alliance, which is a coalition of religious groups, mainstream religious groups, which does believe that there is a place for gay people in their churches and an equal place for gay people in their churches.
On the Dignity thread on the internet, we've been seeing a lot of articles from various different places of mainstream religious people saying that this is bunk. However, do you feel we're losing this battle, Jeff? Now, before you answer this, let me ask you, because I know within the gay community, I think there are many people who believe this propaganda, that homosexuality and religion are by nature incompatible. There are people in my life who believe it. I get a lot of flack for coming here. So do you think we might be losing this battle?
I take your point, Will, and I mean, I do understand why a lot of people feel that, a lot of gay people feel they don't want to be involved with organized religion because they have, on many occasions heard statements from various religious leaders which are very anti-gay, which are very ignorant, which are very evil. I think all I can say is that there are a lot of people of faith who do not believe that. And they're not just gay people. There are a lot of straight people who say that. I mean, there's going to be a struggle. I mean, these institutions are being reformed. It's going to be a difficult struggle. There's no doubt.
There are other people who feel that some of the repressive measures coming down from Rome lately, for example, are last gasps of a dying order. Is there any hope in that belief?
I totally subscribe to that theory. I mean,
let's hope so.
Yeah. I mean, I think what we are seeing is absolutely the last gasps of a hierarchical order which is dying. It's dying in a lot of ways. It's dying for lack of personnel, number one. They just aren't getting the male celibate priests that they've traditionally had. It's just the organization just can't continue.
That they think they've traditionally had. More on which on another episode. Okay, so speaking of scary things coming down from Rome and our hierarchy, we've had some flip-flops with not the encyclical, but with Always Our Children. Right. You can tell me what its official title is. Can you post us on where that is right now?
Yeah. Always Our Children was a document that came out from the National Conference of Catholic Bishops of the United States last October. Right. And basically what it said, in a nutshell, was you should love your children, whether they're gay or they're straight, and you should put your love for your child above any sort of allegiance you may feel to a particular church doctrine. In other words, love comes before the law. Where have we heard this before?
I think in the New Testament, wasn't it? Or somewhere like that. Okay, now this was not what we felt was a perfect document, but it was a big step, right?
Exactly. It was a big step forward. It still said that homosexual activity, sexual activity per se, is considered sinful by the church, but it didn't dwell on that point. It went much more into the psychology of relations between parents and children. And for that, it was positive.
Well, that certainly is a big step forward. In fact, it may have been too big a step forward. Can you update us with what happened after that?
There was a lot of flack that was caught by the bishops who were really sort of ran this document through the process of getting it approved. And in fact, there were some changes that were forced on the document, which were released on July 1st of this year. And relatively few, but they were sort of mean-spirited. I mean, they were an attempt to sort of dilute the impact of the message. And
Some dignitarians were quite appalled at the changes. Others counseled caution, and it was give and take. What do you think?
I think it was unfortunate, too, that the changes were made. And it's very clear that they were made because there was pressure being brought from conservative Catholics, both bishops and Catholics in the pews, here and especially in Rome. And so, but I don't think that the document was gutted. But I think an even more important thing happened shortly thereafter.
Yes, now I think I know what you're leading to, and this is pretty scary. So pay attention here. What happened?
Essentially, the Vatican released a statement saying that no group of bishops, like the bishops of the United States, could issue a document on this kind of matter, on a sort of teaching matter, unless the document was unanimously approved
By all the bishops
by
present?
all the bishops
Oh, yeah, right.
in that conference. Right, like this is the way that any sort of procedure happens.
Right.
Not.
Exactly.
Or the other condition was if 2/3 of them approved of it and the Pope agreed, then it could be sort of put forward as an official teaching. So there's an attempt to sort of diminish the ability of the bishops' conferences to really say anything meaningful. And this has implications way beyond the gay issue, although
That could be, there are social justice issues by national bishops,
Exactly.
especially. We've been kind of proud of the American bishops
Yeah.
and many of the social justice statements they've made,
Yes,
and I
yes.
think maybe they've been too good
Yes.
and are incurring the wrath of Rome. This could be really frightening, but for all that there are many issues at stake here, don't you get the feeling that if there weren't queers involved, Rome wouldn't have been too excited?
Well, I think it's probably not a coincidence, Will, that this ruling on, this general ruling came down right after Always Our Children was revised.
Hello. In case there's any doubt, they hate us. Do you think that's going too far to say?
I think it's an odd sort of mixture of emotions with which they view us, and I mean, I think you sort of put your finger on it when you said, there's queers in the Vatican, and I'm not saying that to be flip, but obviously the Catholic clergy is one of the most heavily gay classes of people in the world. That is widely acknowledged by any objective observer, and people have written very serious books about this. So of course they're threatened by anything that would suggest that people should come out of the closet. Anything that throws light on the issue is going to be threatening to some people.
I'm going to resist the temptation to make jokes about the outfits. Okay, leave us with something hopeful. What's going to happen? What can we do? Where do we go from here? Anything like that? Anything?
Well, I think the hopeful part is as you said before, this is really the last gasp of a dying hierarchy, I believe, and many other people who are much more knowledgeable observers of the church than I am do believe this too. I mean, let's not forget we're dealing with a 2,000-year-old institution here. It actually is, the change is coming from the grassroots. The people in the pews do not agree with what they're saying about homosexuality or about married priesthood or about the ordination of women or any of these issues in which there's big controversy. How long do you think an institution can run when there is serious defection from the grassroots? I think of the Soviet Union as a similar kind of institution that looked like it would never fall,
Right.
Until it did,
Right.
until it just sort of collapsed of its own weight.
But the aftermath of the Soviet Union doesn't make me look forward to the collapse you're speaking about.
Well, fortunately, the Vatican's not running our economy.
Good point. Anything else you'd like to tell people about these issues?
I would just say sometimes it's discouraging, and I mean, I can get cynical as well as the next person about this, but I think the general movement, I mean, basically in Rome, what you have is a bunch of people covering their, can I say it, there are really a lot of rats there, but that doesn't represent the the billion Catholics in the world, or the American Catholics, who in every survey say that they, by very large margins, in '92, American Catholics said they supported gay civil rights and housing and employment by 78%. That's about as close to an absolute majority as you're going to come on any poll. I mean, 25%.
Not good enough for the Pope.
25% of Americans believe Elvis is alive. So
Well, there is
you
that,
accept it.
yes. Okay, so you still believe that gay people are people of faith and people of God and have the special spiritual gifts that we believed in when we started coming here, Jeff?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think it's I think it's carrying us forward. I think you see that the Millennium March, which is coming up in the year 2000, a whole set of controversies about
Oh,
that.
yes. Can we talk about that for a moment, or is that another show? What? It's another show? All right, then you cut us. Okay, so what is going on? Now, that's HRC, people of faith, we're family, we're straight, we wear button-down shirts.
Right.
And we're going to go to the Millennium. No, some of my best friends wear button-down shirts, Jeff. I am
I
not
don't
sure
always wear a
about...
button-down shirt, Will.
Yeah, I know this, but I don't know what... convince me that this is a good thing.
Well,
In your official capacity.
In my official capacity, I can say that the Board of Dignity, voted unanimously that we would support this march. Now, this march was presented to us, like it was to most gay organizations, as a done deal.
You will do this and you will enjoy it, yeah?
Well, my attitude was, if they're going to throw a march in Washington, people will come to it and look fabulous. So it's going to be a great time of year. So
When is it?
it's April.
Oh, good,
Before
cherry
it gets
blossoms.
Really hot. Yeah.
Oh, good, yeah.
But I think the fact that MCC is one of the three major sponsors of that, I believe. A whole other set of groups is sponsoring, including Dignity. But HRC brought in MCC because they wanted to send a message that the issue of faith is a really big one within our community, and not that anyone is saying every gay person should be a person of faith. God knows. I mean, we've struggled to sort of be able to be Catholics in the way that we understand that. This is not an attempt to force faith on anyone, but it's just a recognition that there are gay people of faith and that they have something very important to say.
Okay, well, you tell us more about that as the time approaches, and get me excited about it, because I need a little help on that.
Okay.
Okay, take care and keep up the good work.
Thanks a lot, Will.
Thank you.
5, 4, 3.
Hi, this is Jeff Stone. I'm a member of the National Board of Dignity USA. If you've been through an ex-gay ministry and you would like to talk to Dignity USA about that, we'd be very interested in hearing your story. We'd also be interested in having you appear on the Gay Catholic Hour if you would like to do that. You can contact the folks at the Gay Catholic Hour by calling the phone number that you're going to see at the end of the show. If you would like to contact Dignity USA, you may do that by dialing 800-877-8797. Thanks very much.
Hello, I'm here with Charlie McCarion, who I think is making faces behind me. This is a treasured member of our community, and the handsome guy you see at the beginning of the show looking very holy up here on this spot. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm great. Now, what have you been up to? I hear you have a special project, and I want to know all about it. What are you doing with Queens Pride House?
Queens Pride House is the new forming community center for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community in Queens, and I'm the executive director.
Wow, another title, another tiara to wear. Okay, where is it going to be? Is there a physical space we're working with here?
Claire Schulman, the borough president of Queens, has given
Of all
us-
people.
Of all people, Auntie Claire, has given us a office in Queensborough Hall. So the Gay Community Center of Queens is located in Queensborough Hall in city space.
We have arrived. Okay, that's great. Now, is this a place, are there any drop-in facilities here? Can people come by, pick up literature? Is it going to be like the center here?
The office is usually open Monday to Friday from 1 to 5. In fact, most of the volunteers staffing the office are Dignity members at this point.
Figures, but we never get any credit for it. Okay, what else goes on at the office?
The purpose in Queens is to help a lot of the newly forming gay organizations in Queens, to give them technical assistance, to give them a space to meet. And so some of the new groups that are meeting there are the Korean gay group, Ecuadorian, the Mexican, and Colega, the Colombian group, now uses the space, as well as a large group of women called Women of Queens.
Great. Okay, so we're expanding everywhere, and you're a resource for everyone to come and perhaps follow their own whatever they're up to.
And then also I put on my lawyer hat, and I do help groups with their bylaws or their incorporation, and any other way we can do in setting up a nonprofit.
Well, you're just as handy as a button on a shirt, aren't you? Okay, now you mentioned a lot of the groups that are forming, and you mentioned Ecuadorians and Mexicans. This is called a segue. I understand there are many Hispanic gay people in Queens. What's going on for them? No me digas. Fíjate. What's going on?
One of the new things growing out of Dignity is the hope that we can get a group of Spanish-speaking dignettes in Queens. So there is a committee that's been meeting at Pride House, and we hope that in the fall there will be a meeting and hopefully a liturgy in the fall.
In Spanish?
In Spanish.
It's about time. Okay, so this isn't an exclusively Irish church after all.
No.
Okay, not that there's anything wrong with that. Okay, now what are some of the things that are coming up? Why do we need to have liturgies in Spanish? What's going on? Are there special needs for these communities in Queens that will not be addressed by what we have here in Manhattan?
Well, I think we can try to incorporate, and we should, I think, try to incorporate different cultural expressions here at the kind of the great chapter here in Dignity, but in the smaller chapter, the smaller communities, I think there's a need, especially since a large portion of the Queens gay community are immigrants and new immigrants, that their needs for a place to meet, a place to discuss their faith, the culture they're coming out of, their brand of Catholicism, I think it also gives them a chance to develop on their own without us Anglos trying to tell them what they need in terms of their faith as gay Christians.
And what have you found so far? What are what might people be looking for? Have you learned anything so far that are specific, perhaps ethno-specific needs?
Well, I think for some of the older immigrant communities, culture and religion is very much tied together. So for them, I think it would be important, as for other immigrant communities, to be able to celebrate as queer people the feast of Our Lady Guadalupe in a community of other, or El Santo Niño, or other cultural feasts with other people, just as I know the Filipino community, gay community here celebrates Santo Niño as well.
Sure.
So I think one thing would be to create a space where they can really celebrate their culture as gay people in a gay context.
Now, what's the response been so far, the initial response? Are people excited? Is it hard to reach people? Tell us what you're up against right now.
People are very excited. I think one of the issues is going to be finding a space. We had the chapter last year, or maybe a year and a half ago, had sponsored a forum on Can You Be Gay and Catholic in Spanish in Jackson Heights, and we got about 50 people turned out for that.
Nice.
So I think there's going to be a big response. Finding a good place, a prayerful place that we can have liturgy and meeting is what we're working on now.
A prayerful place meaning?
Well, we could use Borough Hall.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know.
And there's also, in terms of barrier, somewhat to an immigrant population going to a government building.
Yes,
It's another issue.
absolutely.
So I think the next step is really to find a place. I think we're getting a group, and there's been interest in working on liturgies and developing music and stuff like that. So it looks pretty good.
Well, I'm excited about it, and I hope you keep me informed. I look forward to that myself. And anything else you'd like to tell people? Any needs you have, or any messages you want to put out about these exciting developments?
Well, I think I would certainly invite anyone watching who knows or would like to get involved. We're looking we've been in contact with some people in the Bronx. And when the Lavender Community Center was opened and went through its changes and is now reopening in the Bronx, they had in the past invited us to have liturgy in the Bronx Community Center. And there's some interest in Latino groups in the Bronx as well. So if anybody in the Bronx is interested, or if other Latinos would like to get involved, they could call the Dignity office.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you for talking to us about it. These are just some of the exciting things that some of our dignitarians are doing, especially Charlie, who is indescribable, really. And we look forward to these new services out in Queens in Spanish. And nos vemos allá, ¿sí?
Vamos a ver.
Ojalá. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, let's see a nice hand job for the Gay Catholic Hour. Let's see a nice hand job for the Gay Catholic Hour.
Getting me nervous, President.
all in here, and then I'll wash for it with here to be finished.
Ooh, corn on the floor.
Anywhere there. We'll know what to do this together. I think we
Yeah, that's the other side. We're going to give these a wash.
Thank God for zucchini. Yellow and green.
One of the things that goes on by itself. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm trying to compare it to.
This might be the file.
Oh, wait! See, the plan is, Raymond, that you're what? I told you you were.
Yeah, there's two, and you want to bake the other one.
All right,
We can maybe put two layers.
okay.
Only two.
I'm moving out of my head. There's nothing at all. Going down, that's all.
We didn't leave that one.
Separate spicy broccoli. real good way back. We're basically convinced that I know that now we're in the kitchen step. You know, that's the cleanup first. I used to sort of think, okay.
Don't get Bill discouraged saying something like that. You have to, you have to use all the right words. Yeah. I'm just gonna, I got help with something else. That's strange. Yeah, I believe that's fine. Do you want 2 rice puffs or 1? Okay, what are you going to cook the beans? You want to keep this air in this tray is clean. Did they give you a portion of water? Pretty full.
The light is beautiful through here.
White?
The light.
Like the olive oil too.
Yeah, that and the lemon and the butter and the light on the on the dough.
Are you cooking the wild in one pot and the, okay, I'll use the smaller pot.
Then you make, well, I think they have totally different,
I can't hear you, Raymond.
I would think we need lesser of the white rice.
Okay, well, I think this should be enough for the brown rice, the wild rice version.
I might not use all these tomatoes that, we might have too much.
Well, people can take them home.
Some
How many
people.
left?
Well, I don't know. Are they really expecting 40 people? It wasn't-
The next couple of pages is a letter to Cardinal Ratzinger, which attached the flyer that the group in Rochester was passing around, and I guess, so this is somebody in Brooklyn who did write Ratzinger, and I guess seeing my name in the flyer connected to Rockwell Center, I guess. The rest are articles from the Rochester area that the organizer of the conference sent to us presenters. I guess in case any of us weren't aware that there was stuff going on. And there's also a copy of the flyer, I guess the group is passing out at the parishes.
Yeah, they're going on putting it on the car windows and on this stuff here.
So just to give a sense of, a lot of what's going on.
Have a motion.
All right.
Moved by Norman Barry, seconded by Ellen Elliott, that the regional coordinator send a simple, prayerful
Minister with the parish. I stay with Emily in the group. Which is very cute too, because after Kathy finishes her service, comes back and you can hear Emily through the whole church. Good job, Mom. It's a wonderful welcoming parish, and the pastor as well as the other priests there, the team, the whole team, are very, very aware of the dignity group that usually sits together at certain times at certain masses and knows us by name and looks for us. One of us isn't there or whatever for a while, they'll ask, where's so-and-so or whatever. So it really is an opportunity, and Father Tom is very open. In fact, when Kathy and I spoke with him, at length at one point, he said to us that thank you for coming in. We spent a lot of time with him talking about some of the issues in our own faith journey and things like that. And he said to us, I was just about coming to the point where I thought it was time for me to move on from the parish. He said, and I want to thank you for bringing a new challenge in life to me. So that was like really exciting to hear from him. So, we...
There was less of the yellow and the red. There's some yellow squash and some green squash on each.
That's also cross. What, in here? Yeah.
This one is the other back one.
Yeah, let me just see. Yes. Now what is the brown basket?
Some of these two are just large and like
Well, do you want to take the whole thing?
Well,
I mean, oh, it's on the, over here, oh, you found something? Okay.
I got it.
Brandon, this has to be swished?
No, it's swished. It's just for garnish.
Yeah.
75 cents a bunch of different. This is a little parsley. Which one looks
Okay.
That looks very festive. Now the onions and garlic.
Oh, shit! The onions.
What?
I put that in rice.
No, we have some more.
oh.
No. There was the rice onion and there was the tomato onion. The tomato onion's the red onion. Do you want to just almost just sprinkle on them? You want to do olives and garlic? And next we have the mozzarella cheese.
Flat top, Raymond suggested. I can't remember. This batch was one, I filled this up. And
The onion on the side, right?
around.
What?
And the onion on this little,
Yeah, anything that's tomato, a little orange.
We'll give them extra garlic.
Yes, it with a sauce.
We'll make it up.
I think we're gonna reheat it, so I don't think
Okay.
it really matters.
I was looking for, I only wrote one part, I was looking for rice, maybe I can use a.
Getting there.
What do you think?
Yeah, that looks okay.
It's certainly, I did stand here for 6 minutes. So
Yeah, and I had it in.
Debatably, if you could, leave a few of them aside. And the rest of them, you find if there is a thing
Unless it wasn't
just
a
kind of chop them roughly,
And what?
and then we'll put that on top and some salt and pepper, and we're done. With this, anyhow.
More like steam. Okay.
What, did you need to not?
No, I was gonna just put it up there.
Anything else you would like on your plate? Should give you more of?
Is this my plate? Oh, thank you.
That's it.
This is your plate?
It's getting there. Not a whole.
Ed Fitzgerald,
Yes.
now that you're on the Gay Catholic Hour, what are you going?
Now, Henri, what's your title? What is the title?
Regional coordinator.
Regional coordinator. And yours,
I'll be national director
national director.
from the region.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Good. Yes.
Something to do in my 50th year of life.
You don't want you to be, I'll be handing over the gavel, not to worry.
I know.
It
You're
felt
going
like
to
the
be, you're going to
ceremony.
be
So I'll be right next to you. I'll be right next to you. So.
All right.
So happy to get your email. I'll be on the phone and emailing. Great. Yeah, we start from the front.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. On one occasion, when Jesus was going to the house of a leader of the Pharisees to eat a meal on the Sabbath, the lawyers and the Pharisees were watching him closely. When Jesus noticed how the guests chose the places of honor, he told them a parable. When you were invited by someone to a wedding banquet, do not sit at the place of honor, in case someone more distinguished than you has been invited by your host. And the host who has invited both of you may come and say to you, give this person your place. And then in disgrace, you will have to start to take the lowest place. When you are invited, go and sit down at the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he may say to you, friend, move up higher. Then you will be honored in the presence of all who sit at the table with you. For all who exalt themselves will be humbled, and for those who humble themselves will be exalted. Jesus also said to the Pharisees who had invited him, when you give a luncheon or a dinner, do not invite your friends or your brothers or sisters, or your relatives or rich neighbors,
would be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind, and you will be blessed, because they cannot repay you, and you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteousness. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Wow, what a gospel. And be humble. As I reflected on this gospel over the last couple of days, I was thinking of what it is like for us as lesbian and gay Catholics at this time, at this moment in history. And was thinking, it's a very humbling experience. We don't have to imagine what it is like to be outcast, what it is like to be second class. For many of us have experienced that second class status. Now, the more I thought about this whole notion of being humble, I sort of did a little quick thinking and wound up in the place of, well, maybe more humiliation. And I found there was always that little confusion. What in God's name is the difference between humiliation and humility? And it became a little bit clearer as I thought about it, maybe that in our experience, it's been more we know the experience of humiliation. We know what it is like to be uninvited because we're gay. In fact, we're dealing with it and we've discussed it about the upcoming conference in Rochester. It's a very real, it's not a metaphor, it's a very real experience. We know what it is like to be asked to leave communities, religious communities, faith communities. We know what it is like to be asked to leave our places of work. And if we don't leave, we know we are told in many, many ways to be silent, not to be who we are in our gay and lesbian humanness. That is an experience of humiliation. For many lesbian and gay persons, both in the church and in society, I don't know about you, but I've reacted in different ways in my own life when I see my friends and our friends likewise. They can range from awful experiences of silence, never knowing the joy of being open or being out, or simply the human experience of being themselves in the presence of other human beings. There's always this edge, this concern of being found out. I know from when I was teaching in the Catholic school what it was like. I know what it was like when we were dealing with the whole St. Patrick's Day parade. And if my face and my name were to appear in the paper, I was very conscious of the consequences. So even all of that thinking, that sort of, there's always this undertone of if I am found out, if they find out who I really am as a gay human being, that there is consequences. I know what it was like growing up. All my other sisters and brothers, they had no problems being themselves in the house. My sisters always brought their boyfriends home, you know, and talked openly. They were simply themselves. But I knew I got a different message. I could not be myself. I dare not be myself because of the bigotry, because of the prejudice, because of simply the second-class status that it is to be lesbian and gay. It was not right. It simply was not right in the family, in the home, in the church. Of course, I was told, we've been told for centuries, we've developed theology that told us to be not just humble, but to actually silent. In fact, and it was described as the love that dare not speak its name, the sin that is unmentionable among Christians. That is who we are. That is the theology developed over centuries that we find ourselves at this moment of history speaking out in the face of. And then I was thinking of dignity. And I said, what is dignity? Gathering places of humble people, breaking through all of this silence and finding a place to be ourselves. That's basically what our communities are. Almost like what Jesus was speaking about in this parable. Here he is, to these Pharisees, and from what we know, very good, decent, faithful, religious people, welcoming the holy man Jesus for a meal. And here he comes with this story. What an incredible story. The ones who exalt themselves will be humble, and the ones who humble themselves will be exalted. I was thinking of what dignity is like. How many tables have you and I gone to where all we want was a place at the table? In fact, Bruce Bauer was it who wrote that book, A Place at the Table. That is all we have ever wanted as a lesbian and gay person. A place at the table. And yet, how many tables have we been told there is no room for you here in your human self? So, in order to be accepted, we maybe exaggerated, we pretended, we tried to be so many other persons other than ourselves. I know I did. I tried to be the good little boy for so long. At all the family gatherings, I danced with everybody else that nobody else would dance with. But I often wondered, God, it must be lovely to dance on the dance floor with the one that you love, or with someone to delight, the simple human delights and pleasures that so many other people take for granted. We cannot. The whole idea in our local churches of watching lives being celebrated and honored and ritualized, for us we cannot. For too often our lives have been one of being outcast and silent. And again, I just was thinking of all the theologies of liberation. And it was only, I remember when I went to St. Francis Xavier and found dignity. Now there was a place at the table. There is a place at the table for literally the outcast, the second class, whether you were in leather, whether you were in drag, whether whoever, old, young, all are welcome at the table of fellowship, of dignity. And I said, how humbling. I didn't have to pretend. Years of built up of pretense, gave way to simply, my God, I can simply learn to be myself here. All the defenses could come down. And I really believe that when I think back to those first experiences of walking into the holy place that dignity, brothers and sisters, created, real places of fellowship where I could be, that is what Jesus was speaking about in this parable. Literally, when you are having a meal, welcome the unwelcome, welcome the crippled, welcome the blind, welcome the lame. And who were all of those people in Jesus' day except the unwelcome, the literally second-class citizens of his day? And he was saying, create a place, real fellowship, where the outcasts are welcome. Now, come to our moment in history, and that is what dignity is doing. Still in our church and in our society, we don't even have the most basic civil protections from discrimination that everybody else enjoys. And yet we tried in this state to get that, and we don't have that. The most basic human protections against discrimination. We don't have that yet. In our church, we're wondering if we can even talk about our experience of God's grace in our lives. We're wondering, where can we speak about that? That is very sad. But I'm glad I know there is one place I don't have to hide. My humanness, the only humanness that I will ever know, that is, as a human being, as a gay man. I'm so grateful for Dignity, for creating a place of fellowship, a place at the table where I could be myself. Now, you know, I didn't pick that up too easily. I had to sit in the back pews and watch what was happening at Dignity. And I saw joy, I saw fellowship, I saw people singing and happy and open and sharing. Real fellowship that somewhere in my life I had longed for. And slowly but surely, I learned to speak. God knows I haven't shut up since. But truly, that is the fellowship that Jesus is talking about. And you know, I didn't have to exaggerate or pretend. In Dignity, literally the message is, you know, you can be yourself. You can wear a wig, you can put feathers in, you can come in a gown here. You simply can come as your human self. There are no questions here. This is a fellowship where we try to send a message that all are welcome. And that, I believe, is the vision and the message of this parable as Jesus told it. For all who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. And that is so true, because God knows we come in here with broken hearts, broken egos, broken people, needing to be lifted up, needing to know that we are loved as we are. And for many, you know and I know, that it is often in dignity communities, whether they're 3 people or 5 people or 100, it doesn't matter, that often it is in our little small communities of humble fellowship that often that is where people's hearts that are low are maybe lifted for the first time. And that is God's grace, I believe, active in our humble communities. You and I are well aware of our own weaknesses in leadership and our own struggles and our efforts. But one thing we do have is a certain humility. Maybe because of our human experience. And that we don't wish to hide anymore. We simply want to be ourselves. We've been humbled by our human experience. And we come in and experience this fellowship where we are lifted up and simply accepted for who we truly are. But also, there's the challenge, not to hide. You don't have to pretend anymore. There's the call to be simply honest about who we are. The call to be more open and not silent. Not to drop all the pretensions that I've learned and that we have learned to build up as protections. Very necessary ones maybe, we're all too aware of what can happen. But I think there's that great challenge of dignity to each other, but also to the wider church, to be more honest, be more humble. Gosh, that's all it is. What a great parable and message, you know. I love dignity. I love this community because I know it is here in this place, in all humility, that I could become myself, and I'm challenged to be myself. That I'm challenged to be more honest, to be more open, and I hear it every Sunday, to become more loving, to reach out to those who need to be lifted up. And maybe, you know, I love it here where Jesus says, when you give a luncheon or a dinner, do not invite your friends or your brothers or sisters or your relatives or rich neighbors, in case they might invite you in return, and you would be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor and the crippled, the lame and the blind, and you will be blessed. And I thought, yes, how many times, you know, that's basically is the message. We come humiliated and humbled by our experience. We find our ways, somehow, all of us have, to dignity. And in dignity, we found a table of fellowship where we were welcome, where where we heard the message, all are welcome in this place. And maybe that is the first time for many of us, truly, especially in a church setting where we heard that message, that we are welcome as we are in all our humble selves. And slowly we could drop the pretensions. Slowly we heard a message we didn't have to hide. Slowly then we are lifted up and we regain literally a dignity that we did not have before. And that is the gift of dignity. And then not only is the community blessed, but all of us are blessed just by us being together in our humble selves. And the gift of God in our midst, that's real hospitality, that's real welcome. And then I was thinking, you know, that's the message that others in the lesbian and gay community need to hear. That's the message that the church needs to hear. The blessing of humble openness and honesty with each other. Because that's all humility is. I used to think it meant I had to put stones in my shoes and hate myself. That's real humility. The more you deny yourself and hate yourself, the more grace you'll get. You know, as they often said to me, as Our Lady said to Bernadette Scooby-Doo, great will be a reward in the next life. But that it's not in the next life, but in fact, the blessing is meant to be in this life. As we become real humble. And what does humility mean? Not putting ourselves down, or our people down, or the need to even deny our human selves in any setting, nor even to exaggerate or pretend, or to have any pretensions about ourselves, but simply to be ourselves as best as we can be. That is the call. And then there is experiencing the blessing. And I believe, basically, that is the blessing and the gift of dignity in the church. That for year after year, week after week, in small numbers and large numbers, that Dignity small communities right across this nation have created continually, despite tremendous hostility and opposition and difficulties, and internal difficulties, but has been there, creating places of welcome and open fellowship, where our lives could be lifted up. And then our challenge then, I believe, is to go out and to share the blessing that has been, the good news, to really recreate the church and structures where places that are inhospitable and unwelcoming become places of welcome. That our churches and our communities really become places where all are treated equally. God, thank you for what you have done in our own lives, for taking our broken, maybe often humiliated selves and lives, for bringing us on our personal journeys to Dignity communities, to places where we found, many of us for the first time in our lives, real fellowship, places of welcome, where we who had felt so outcast and second class found ourselves welcome. Thank you for the vision that you have given us and given our Dignity communities right across this nation. Thank you for the gift that you have given us of communities that are really places of welcome and hospitality, especially for lesbian and gay persons right across this nation and across the world. Bless us in our personal lives, as leaders, as servants in our communities. May we always be welcoming to all whom you may bring in our midst. May we welcome always those who need places where they feel they can be lifted up. Help us to bring our message of what you've done in our midst. Thank you for what you've done in our lives. Amen.
Amen.
Ask your opinion of something.
Join on the other side.
Everybody has corny appearances.
Not even more now. I know his name means pussy. But
How high? Yeah, exactly.
okay, I like to have him. Okay, sorry.
Ain't that kind of show.
We a family show. I'm like I'm gonna fall.
What kind of family?
Yeah.
5, 4, 3.
Welcome to the Gay Catholic Hour. I'm Chris Capiello, and we are a production of Dignity New York. Sorry.
4,
He counts
3.
Welcome to the Gay Catholic Hour, a production of Dignity New York. I'm Chris Capiello, and I am delighted to welcome back my beautiful and talented co-host, Kathy Carter. Kathy, how you doing?
I'm great. It's great to be back. It's great not to be pregnant anymore, and it's fabulous to be in the lovely out of doors here in the courtyard at St. John's in the Village.
Well, Kathy, in the couple of months since we last saw you, a lot has been going on for Dignity New York and for gay Catholics in general.
I know, Chris. I was in Brooklyn, not in a convent. But to hear Sister Gracie tell it, there's more going on in convents than there is in Brooklyn.
Sister Gracie, have you heard from her?
Well, she did send me a card and a lovely gift for my new baby, and all you viewers out there in TV land can do the same if you like. We do take cash and accept American Express. Send that care of Dignity New York.
And I am sure that the two of you are worth every single dollar that our generous viewers might want to send in.
Absolutely.
However, getting back to the show, we do have several interviews tonight, a party to go to, and you mentioned Sister Gracie.
Yes, she thinks she might be returning from Central America soon. And you know, I don't think she's going to be the same Sister Gracie. She's been studying all of this liberation theology stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, that should be very interesting.
And you mentioned we have a party to attend?
Yes, tonight we will be broadcasting part of our show live on tape from the church dinner for the Northeast Regional Meeting of Dignity USA.
Ooh, a church dinner. Will that be followed by prayer and medication?
Hopefully followed by margaritas.
Yay.
But first, we should take a look at our first interview. Our roving reporter, Will Berger, caught up with Jeff Stone, our regional director, to catch up with some of the news affecting gay and lesbian Catholics. Let's take a look.
This is Roller Girl, Porn Queen. I just watched Boogie Nights. Sorry.
Is that real?
Do we want to?
Yeah, let's do it.
5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to the Gay Catholic Hour at our church dinner at the 1998 Northeast Regional Meeting of Dignity USA.
That's right. And if you're one of our longtime viewers, well, you know who you are. Shit. You know who we
You know who we
Know
are.
who we are.
know who we are.
We don't have. No, you have one of those.
Not that he sleeps in it anyway. He sleeps with me.
Ready?
More on that later.
Where's the 2-bedroom apartment?
5, 4.
Welcome back to the Gay Catholic Hour from our church dinner for the 1998 Northeast Regional Meeting of Dignity USA.
We can hardly wait to eat.
Mm-hmm.
If you're one of our longtime viewers, we know who you are.
Welcome back to the Gay Catholic Hour
You
and our church
know
dinner.
who we are.
Ready? 5, 4.
Welcome back to the Gay Catholic Hour, coming to you from the church dinner at the 1998 Northeast Regional Meeting of Dignity USA.
We can hardly wait to eat.
Mm-hmm.
If you're one of our longtime viewers, then you know who we are, and we know who you are. But if you're not one of our longtime viewers, welcome to the show. We hope you enjoy it, and let us tell you a little bit about who we are.
And who we are not. Dignity is not a group of gay and lesbian Catholics who want to change their sexuality.
That's right.
We at Dignity believe that our sexuality is God's gift, and we honor and celebrate our relationships just as we honor and celebrate our religious heritage.
Indeed we do. Dignity New York is also part of a national organization that has chapters in every major city. You can check out the website at www.dignityusa.org, which has a local link page, or give them a call at the 800 number, which we'll give you later in the program.
Dignity also works with other liberal Catholic organizations, such as Call to Action, for the full participation within the church of all disenfranchised people.
Yes. Before we join the party, we want to show you a quick look at a piece from a press conference on August 12th, featuring Chris Cox, the Executive Director of Dignity USA, our national organization.
I think that's Charles Cox. And Charles had the opportunity to speak at a press conference on behalf of Dignity. The press conference was organized by the Human Rights Campaign to address the Family Research Council's claim that homosexuality and religion are incompatible. Let's take a look.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
I know who we are, and you know who I am. And
Okay, from 5, 4.
Kathy, I recently came across a list of items that were actually printed in real church bulletins.
Such as?
Okay. At the evening service tonight, the sermon topic will be, What is Hell? Come early and listen to our choir practice. True.
They certainly were not talking about the Dignity Choir. What else do you have there?
Okay, number 2, Thursday at 5 p.m., there will be a meeting of the Little Mothers Club. All wishing to become Little Mothers, please see the minister in his study.
Jim Baker? Too late for me. What else?
Okay, one more. For those of you who have children and don't know it, we have a nursery downstairs.
That's where I'm going as soon as we're done with this segment. We have been presenting monthly interviews with members of the Dignity New York Steering Committee on the Gay Catholic Hour.
Yes, and our roving reporter Will Berger recently caught up with Father Charlie McCarion, the senior member of the Dignity New York Steering Committee, after one of our recent masses. That was sort of fudged, but...
Yeah.
I'm Chris Capiello, and I'm going to Finland. All those Norwegian places, all those Scandinavian places, Norway, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, they're all the same.
So here we are, finally inside at the lovely dinner. It smells fabulous in here. So Chris?
Well, Kathy, while you were away on maternity leave, you may not have heard, but Father John McNeil, one of the founders of Dignity, has a 4th book coming out this fall, his autobiography.
It's fabulous.
And while he was in town promoting the book, he promised to stop by sometime soon and deliver a homily at one of our liturgies.
Fabulous. When?
Well, tentatively October 11th at our regular liturgy, but anyone interested should make sure and call the Dignity number.
Right. That's a number that we'll give you at the end of the show. So, what else have I missed?
Well, our roving reporter, Will Berger, also has a book coming out this fall, and we'll have more on that in our next episode.
Ooh, saving some surprises.
Want to make sure our viewers tune in next month for Will's book. Also, we recently had one of our favorite presiders in all the world, Father Ron Hoskins, come and say Mass, all the way from the city of brotherly love. So we have some videotape of that homily.
And now the videotape. If I can swallow. Dignity New York meets every Sunday. Mass begins at 7:30 p.m. and is followed by a social.
We meet at St. John's in the Village on the corner of Waverly and West 11th Street, just west of 7th Avenue. For more information, call the number on the screen.
And if you can't find a pencil, don't panic. We're listed in the phone book under Dignity New York. So call us.
And watch us next month, same time, same station.
So until next time, be proud you're Catholic.
And be proud you're gay.
So long.
Very good.
Hang on. Can I bread my teeth? I can see it from this distance anyway. Dignity, okay. Dignity New York meets every Sunday. We've only been doing this for 2 years. Dignity New York meets every Sunday evening. Mass begins at 7:30 and is followed by a social.
We meet here at St. John's in the Village on the corner of Waverly and West 11th Streets, just west of 7th Avenue. And by the
Boy, you think I hadn't done this?
Dignity New York meets every Sunday evening. Mass begins at 7:30 p.m. and is followed by a social.
We meet here at St. John's in the Village on the corner of Waverly and West 11th Street, just west of 7th Avenue. For more information, call the number on the screen.
And if you can't find a pencil,
Don't panic.
We're listed in the phone book under Dignity New York, so give us a call.
And watch us next month, same time, same station.
So until next time, be proud you're Catholic.
And
Proud you're gay.
So long.